Hello everyone, welcome to URBONUS podcast. I'm the host Donatas URBONUS, and today we will have this lineup of our contributor Augustas Šuliauskas, who's making video breakdowns for BasketNews.com, and of course Errick, McCollum, the new player of Izmir Karşıyaka. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello, Donatas.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, and good to sign a contract in June, as we discussed before the podcast, right? Just run through that agreement with Karşıyaka, because the funny thing was that in the last pod we were discussing who would you go for the BCL team or the Eurocup team if you had an offer on the table. It felt like you were close to sign in Venice, but then Karşıyaka came out of nowhere. So can you take us through that signing experience in Turkey?
Yeah, it was crazy because I talked to the team at Venice, and it was a good team, good organization. I heard nothing but good things. And the coach was very professional. And, I'm thinking like, maybe this is where I'm going to go. You never really know until you really sign on the dotted line. But it was feeling like I was going to go that way. And, out of nowhere, I get a call from John Diebler, one of my old teammates. And he told me that Ufak wanted my number and wanted to talk to me. And I was like, okay, they had sent in a contract first, and, we were going back and forth, and I was like, I think I'm going to go with Venice. But then, they finally met the terms that I wanted. And, we had a good conversation. I talked with him about his plan for the team, what he thought. I already know about his prestige as a coach. He was the national team coach. He's a champion. He's won. He's been there. And, I just, believed in what he could do. So as far as like Champions League, Eurocup, for me, I'm at the stage where I'm 34 years old. I just want to continue to play at a high level, play in good leagues, and play in a good country that's good for my family. And if you can take good salary, do that as well. So for me, Eurocup, Champions League, not really a big difference. But for a younger player who has that ambitions to get to the EuroLeague, I can see using that EuroLeague or Eurocup way to get there as a pathway. But for me, it was a great situation, a great country. Turkey is one of my favorite places to play in my career. And anytime you compare with a good team, a good coach, and your family's happy, your wife's happy, she was pleased with it. You don't have to worry about any political situations, nothing like that. I'm just there to play basketball and enjoy myself. That was the opportunity I had to jump on.
Was there anything special you left on the table? If I remember well, you tweeted about being on the list of some solid teams, right? But at the same time, you didn't want to put yourself in a situation that you might, skip some good offers just for waiting for somebody crazy. What was in particular you had on the table, for example?
Like, it's like teams will call your agent, right? And they'll be interested. They'll tell you we have you on a short list. There's a guy that we like. And the translation to that means that they like you, but they also like a few other guys, and they want you to wait. Maybe there's a board, there's a group of people that they have to make a decision on. Sometimes one person doesn't have the ultimate power. So it's kind of have to be a group choice or group decision. And then from there, oftentimes it can mean that they also like other players, maybe a little bit more, maybe less. And maybe if they miss on those guys, then they'll come to you, or, but you're not the first one on the list, because if you were, the offer would already be there. And in my stage, I'm experienced. I've been here. I know, what that means. It means that they like me. They do. And there's a chance I could go there. But if I find everything I'm looking for in a team, like Karşıyaka, they gave me everything that I wanted. And it's a location that I desired. I really wanted to get back to Turkey. The most fun I ever had playing basketball on and off the court, was my years in Turkey. Granted, I was at Galatasaray, but it was just an awesome time. And, I wanted to go back with my family and do that. And the fact that it's a high level team, made me jump on it. So a lot of guys would wait. A younger player in my younger days, I would wait. I would play that game. But in my stage of the game, I got a 2-year guaranteed deal. I'm pleased with the terms, and I see the growth in the team. I see the potential. We can be a competitor in the Champions League. And, we can be a top 4 team in the Turkish league. So that's all I needed. I like winning. Ufak likes winning. And I think that, he has the ability to not only coach, but, to push me, and to help me elevate myself as well. Because if you're not trying to constantly improve, what are you playing the game for?
Yeah, finally we have European basketball season finished. The French League finals ended with ASVEL taking a dramatic win against Monaco. It was one of the last major competition without a champion, so finally this is it. But at the same time, the national team started playing. We saw Luka Doncic and Goran Dragic pairing up together again, playing against Italian national team, winning the game by 18 or 19 points. Luka scored 12 points. He had, I think, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Just before this pod, I watched the game. It kind of reminded me more of an all-star game, actually, because Luka was missing dunks. He was throwing some alley-oop passes that just hit the backboard. I mean, it was pretty awkward game. But anyways, I believe that the entire summer we'll be talking about Luka Doncic and the upcoming Eurobasket, because if you remember well, the last summer Slovenia national team was the team that brought a lot of joy for all the basketball fans around the world. At the same time, Luka Doncic reminds me the 2017 and 18 season when he played for Anadolu Efes and Real Madrid, and it was the first game of the entire EuroLeague season, actually. You went up for 26 points, I think. You were good, you were cooking, but at the same time, Luka Doncic went for a career high, 27 points, and Real Madrid won against Anadolu Efes. What do you remember about that game, and just in general, what is your biggest Luka Doncic memory?
That's funny because I remember that game vividly. I heard a lot about Luka Doncic, and everybody knew he was a top 5 pick. But oftentimes, you're not sure, how a player, maybe translates if he's really good or if it's his potential. And, I hadn't seen him play live. I had heard a lot of stuff, and we're watching the film and we're going over matchups. And usually I guard the point guard, and coach was like, yeah, you're not going to guard the point guard today. And I looked at him like, why not? Like, I normally guard the point guard. And he was like, Luka's too big. I was like, okay, like how big is he really? Like I see it says 6'8" here on the scouting report, but what is he, like 6'6"? He's like, no, Errick, he's 6'8". I was like, come on, 6'8" point guard in Europe. Like, I'm not buying that. I was like, how much does he weigh?
He was only 18, and he was only 18, yeah.
And he's 18 years old, he's 6'8", and he plays point guard. And I was like, okay, like, is he heavy? Like, yeah, he's probably about 230 pounds. And I just looked like, oh my goodness, like, nah, I have to see this. I'm not going to believe an 18-year-old kid can have this man body, but also be like agile enough to be a point guard. So we get to the game and we're in warmups. And normally I'm just always focused on myself, do my warmups and stay locked in. But I had to turn and look, like, just to size up. And I was like, okay, yeah, he looks to be about 6'8". And the thing I remember vividly is the whole team on Real Madrid had their warm-ups on. Everybody was in uniform. Everybody had the same thing on. Luka had on a whole different warm-up. You could see the swagger. You could see the confidence. And the whole time I'm thinking, look at this cocky little 18-year-old coming in here dressing different than the whole team. I'm like, who does he think he is? And he backed it up. He came out and he was phenomenal. And after the game, I think my brother watched that game too. And he called me after the game and he was like, woo, he said, Luka Doncic is real. He said, he's going to have a long career in our league. And I was like, yeah, he's legit. He's legit. And he gave it to us every way. He was the bigger guys. He were taking them off the dribble, one-on-one isolation, blowing by them. We tried to put smaller guards on him. He was posting. He was scoring so much. It got to the point where I was just like, all right, let me try. Everybody's getting scored on. I might as well go try. And I think he hit a 3 on my face, just because he's 6'8", just rised up over top of me, shot it. And I was like, man, he's a tough player. I got my way offensively. I usually score pretty well, and I usually can get to my spots. But I would tell you, we had no matchup for him. And after that, I said he can wear whatever he wants in warm-ups. He can do whatever he wants because this kid is the real thing.
That's crazy that there were still some people in the States not believing his potential, even after he won the EuroLeague at 18 and was the MVP of the season. So.
I was about to ask you, if CG had any doubts and if you had that kind of discussion that, splitting into camps saying that, oh, Luka will fail or he will make it. But from what I understood, there was no discussion at all, right?
Yeah, we were always skeptical of any young player. So if a young player comes in, it's extremely
coming from
difficult.
Europe, probably.
Yeah, especially from Europe, because you're not just thinking he has to learn a whole different style of basketball. He has to deal with the language barrier, find a new place, first time away from home. But this is different. Luka he's from Slovenia, so he kind of went to Spain, and it's far away from home, but it's a lot different being in the US. The culture is different, everything, being the cornerstone of a franchise. Like, it's a lot of pressure, a lot of things that go into it. And then, now he's given an access amount of money. Like, you never know how that might, affect the player's mentality, how they train, how they work, the professionalism, like all these things you can't really counter for. And it's just a lot for an 18-year-old to shoulder. And he's handled it excellently. He's been great. And I think we had doubts just because we had never saw him. But once I played against him, and my brother watches all my games, I watch all his. After he destroyed Efes, when I was there, we knew, okay, he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the ever tall point guard, which is in a different situation right now. Nick Calathes, one of the main topics of our podcast. We will try to find the best landing destination for Nick, who seems like to be moving out of Barcelona. Just a short intro for the entire episode. We will also discuss Fenerbahce being on the rebuild and the next important piece for the rebuild. Maccabi almost finishing the rebuild, actually. Vasilis Spanoulis and him jumping straight from playing to the head coaching. And we'll try to analyze the Game 5 of the French League finals. Amazing battle of ASVEL and Monaco. So starting from Nick Calathes, just a short information. He's under the contract with Barcelona for another year. It seems like he's moving. Other teams are also approaching both camps, and his contract for the next year is worth around 2 million euros, according to my sources. And I know that teams are approaching and asking to split the contract, let's say in two halves, for Barca to cover 1 million. The other team might cover 1 million as well. So Calathes, who was top tier player, now kind of becomes available for these middle level teams, level budget teams like Maccabi, for example, Monaco or other clubs, because it's different than to throw, you can throw 1 million and it's not needed to throw 2 millions for a player like Nick Calathes. So we'll see where he will end up. It's still not clear. And before the pod, I asked you to do some homework and to find the best landing destination for him, or at the same time, the team where you would like to see him. And there might be different reasons for that. So Augustus, I would like to start with you. Where do you want to see Nick Calathes next year?
I had two options in my mind at first. I had Fenerbahce and Maccabi when you asked me yesterday, but I'm seeing the reports today that Lorenzo Brown is signing for Maccabi, and I think that closes that door, because I think Lorenzo Brown and Nick are similar type of players in some way. They are both great on-ball defenders. They are both tall point guards. They're both, let's say, average shooters, both great in transition. I compared their transition points per possession on Instat, and even Lorenzo Brown was better. So I think Maccabi doesn't need 2 point guards of the same type. So I think that leaves him with, I see him the best in Fenerbahce, especially if De Colo re-signs with them. So you have De Colo and Wilbekin, 2 smaller guards. So maybe I would see 2 bigger guards complementing this backcourt. And I think one of the options for Fenerbahce would be Nick Calathes. Would be great in maybe covering, other 2 players on defense, because maybe, De Colo and Wilbekin could have some hard times, maybe in the playoffs more. So I think Calathes would be great in organizing the play. It could be a great complementing player together with these 2 ball dominant players who are, who likes to score more. So I think it would be a great pickup for Fenerbahce, and could even lift them to, maybe in the playoffs for sure, but maybe even contending for the Final Four.
Yeah, I think one of the underrated skills or qualities that Nick Calathes brings on the floor is his defense. I remember that Šarūnas Jasikevičius pointed this out the last year in the Final Four, where he said that everybody's talking about his assists, him passing the ball, making all these highlights for Facebook or Instagram. But as the coach, he likes the most his defense. And I was actually surprised about his defensive impact he made for Barca even this season. I think that he was his defensive impact was second highest on Barcelona team per BBallytics. He makes a huge difference on both ends of the floor, although we're talking more about his assists because he's the leader in EuroLeague in assists per game. So yeah, that's one of the things which fit well next to Wilbekin and DiColo. Not only his, presence shouldering the offense, but at the same time helping them in defense, and being a 198 centimeters point guard is a huge advantage when you have to play defense, and on the offense as well. You can post up some other opponents. What do you think, Errick?
Yeah, I got to agree with you guys, especially Augusta. You said Fener, that could be an ideal fit just because his ability in the pick and roll. I mean, DiColo's a good passer. He can create, he can score, but Nick is one of the most creative passers in Europe. To me, he's the best passer, out of the pick and roll, finding the reads, the lob, the corner looks. I mean, he sees everything. And with that size, that defensive mentality, with DiColo and Wilbekin not being really defensive-minded guards, you bring someone in who can create and give you something on the offensive end and kind of dictate the tempo of the game, but also can guard. Another sleeper pick that I thought could be a good team, is Milan. They're losing Delaney. They're not sure what they're going to do with Chacho. Pangos is, in limbo. Is he going to be free from Cheska? Is he's not? We don't know. I think that would be a great place to slide him in at Milan, to be in Messina's system, running that pick and roll heavy offense. And there'll be a big lineup. You could go with him and Shields in that back court if you want Shields to play the 2 sometimes the 3. I think that would be really attractive for him. But if I'm Barcelona, I also want to be smart with what team I allow to have him, because Nick Calathes is a really good player. He can put Milan on a different stratosphere, or he can put Fener on a different level. And if you do that, you're almost essentially guaranteeing one of those teams a playoff position, and most likely a Final Four position. And that's a team that you're going to have to compete against. And do you really want to face that? Is that $1 million worth it at the end of the day to save? I don't know, but maybe to them it is.
So, yeah, Errick, you are saying you want to see Calathes return to Panathinaikos, if that's possible.
I mean, that would be
Barcelona would like to see that. Barcelona would like to see that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fun to see in that open offense, him doing it, controlling things. I don't know if they would have the pieces around him necessary to flourish like he needed, just because he's such a good passer. He needs guys who can finish plays, who can shoot. And, with Panda cutting the budget so much, will they be able to put that talent around him to necessarily compete? So if I'm him, I would look for Fener or Milan more. I know this would never happen. I mean, Hertel had issues with this, but Madrid could be in the market for a point guard with Perrier Henry, testing the NBA waters, but I'm sure once they realize that was an option, that would be blocked, or they would put in a contract anywhere but there. It's kind of like a bitter ex-girlfriend. They don't want you, but you can't date her best friend, and that's kind of where that's at.
Yeah, I was also thinking if Nick Calathes will manage to make Thomas Hertel move, to Real Madrid, just trying to buy out his contract and silently going to the main rivals. Probably not this time after this Hertel's experience. But from my side, I mean, you already mentioned, you had good points, and especially about Milan, because I believe that there might be some other sleepers. What if Partizan and Željko Obradović comes with an offer, because they were together in Panathinaikos when they won the EuroLeague, and actually Partizan, they were looking for a solid point guard even during the last season, and now with Dallas Moore, an expiring contract, they only have Yamadar and Alexa Avramovic on the team. So Nick Calathes would be a nice fit next to Kevin Punter, Zach Lidey, and some new acquisitions. I mean, who knows? Partizan might throw a lot of money. I mean, they already threw some unexpected bombs last summer. Nobody even have a feeling that they might sign Kevin Punter or Zach Lidey. So I wouldn't be surprised with Calathes moving to Belgrade right now, because once again, we cannot hear anything about Partizan and their upcoming moves. But as a fan, yeah, Augustus, I saw that you want to interrupt me, no? To add something.
I was like, and if Partizan can get more of big shooters at center position, that would be especially, I think, a great fit. With Obradović, with Punter, with Lidey on the roster. If you get 4 shooters around Calathes, I think that would be huge. That would unlock the offense. And it would be a huge, potentially one of the best offenses in how Obradović can use the best abilities of each player. And then with Calathes running the pick and roll show, I think that would be also a really nice fit.
Yeah, but, as Errick said, Barca, they also have to look for some comfortable destinations, not to make any, not challenging destinations for them. And I was looking for the whole EuroLeague perspective, and I was looking from neutral fans' perspective. I mean, Fenerbahce, they're already good. They have Itudis, they have Wilbekin, they have Errick's guy Motley, Jakiri, some other signings are coming there. Milan, they're already perfect. Okay, we're not sure how this situation with Kevin Pangos will be concluded, but anyways, they already had a lot of solid pieces. And I want to improve these bottom EuroLeague teams. And you already mentioned Panathinaikos, Athens. I think that I believe in this reunion. Okay, Panathinaikos, they're not as rich as they were before, but they can move some pieces. And there are a lot of talks that Papagiannis has a lot of NBA interest and he might move to the NBA, although he has a crazy NBA buyout. It's around $4 million, if I'm right. But at the same time, his contract is expiring next summer, which means that if Panathinaikos is not letting him go this summer, probably they will lose him for free next year. So at least they should look for some, consensus of letting him go for, I don't know, $2 million, for example. It's already a different conversation because NBA team can cover $775,000. So for Papagiannis, it's already only $1 million instead of $3 or $2 million. So I think that they might find some solutions to create some salary space for Nick Calathes and Panathinaikos. And what Panathinaikos can offer is the fact that probably it's the only team where you can give him keys of the team, because Fenerbahce, I mean, Calathes won't be the main guy. It's Wilbekin, and Calathes, he's turning 34. I mean, he's moving from the alpha man to some secondary option on every team we are discussing already. Panathinaikos, they can give him the keys of the team. They can give him the control of the team, because we're not sure who is going to be the head coach of the team. But when you have Nick Calathes, he's already the head coach on the floor. And with Calathes, every team instantly becomes the playoff contender. So I would love to see this good wave, good boost for Panathinaikos to finally be in the playoff contention. I think that they can find €1 million to cover half of his contract. I think that they can give him that joy, which maybe he was missing in Barca, and Panathinaikos can be Calathes' team again, at least for the next season, because he's turning 35 in 2 years. It's a different conversation, but right now I think Panathinaikos would be a great choice for every neutral EuroLeague fan. Although before Lorenzo Brown signing, I was really hoping for him to end up in Maccabi, because Maccabi for me was a perfect destination, because differently from Panathinaikos, when Calathes left Panathinaikos in 2020, that divorce wasn't easy. There were some behind the scenes fights. With Maccabi is different. There are no bad past experiences. Oded Katash is the coach who's completely opposite to Šarūnas Jasikevičius. He gives full freedom to his players on the court. He has that laid back approach, both in the practices, for example. I remember that his practices, they barely last 1 hour and a half. Nick Calathes is the guy who wants to play games and not to run full speed in practices. Maccabi also could give him keys of the team, and he might connect all these interesting pieces they have right now with Darun Hillard, with Bonzi Colson, Austin Hollins, Alex Poitras. He's the guy who can sell tickets. He's a highlight reel guy who can inspire all Yad Eliyahu arena. I mean, I saw Calathes as a very interesting fit for Maccabi, but yeah, with Lorenzo Brown, it's already a spacing nightmare for the coach, because they're both below 33% three-point shooters. So now I go with Maccabi. Panathinaikos, I'm sorry. I was talking too long. Sorry, guys.
Oh, you're good. I think another team that he could fit on, but I'm not sure if they would do it just because it's in the Spanish league, is Baskonia. They haven't really made a lot of moves. They haven't been active on the market. And to have a league guard like that, I think he could definitely put them over the hump and put them in playoff contention.
They're probably one of the most silent teams so far in the market. Donatas.
Yeah, that's true. And they're still uncertain about Will Baldwin and his future. So they would be looking for a point guard. And we don't have many point guards left on the market. So yeah, probably every team has to make some moves for Calathes. I wouldn't be surprised if Monaco will be making moves. Even I don't know, maybe it's even an idea for Žalgiris, but at the same time for Calathes there's no reason to join teams like Žalgiris. I mean, there's no sun in Kaunas. He probably doesn't know the coach, all the players, so I mean he will go somewhere with more sunshine.
I think Žalgiris needs more of a scoring type guard now with the other signings they have. Not Nick Calathes. Obviously, he would improve the level of the team by a mile, but I think they need other type of guards at the moment.
By the way, I had a question for you, Errick, because I think that there was a kind of underrated moment. I don't know if you remember, but there was a photo of Barcelona head coach Šarūnas Jasikevičius and Tomas Satoransky. That photo leaked out probably during the playoff time, EuroLeague playoff time, maybe before the playoffs. And from players' perspective, let's say you're on your team, you're having a season with big goals, and on Twitter you see your head coach having some nice lunch or dinner with potential replacement for you. I mean, I talked with some people and they said that knowing Šaras, he could easily try to play both Satoransky and Calathes on the same team. But at the same time, it's kind of a signal for Calathes that, you know, something might be going on, and maybe team is already preparing some moves and to move him in summer. How do you feel as a player watching coach making this photo, and more of, you know, watching this photo being leaked on the internet?
For me, I would feel like it's kind of hypocritical. If I was out meeting with a different team, a coach or president, from, let's say, if Nick was out with Pablo Lasso, or, you know, with a team from the Spanish league, I think a lot of Barcelona fans would be extremely upset. They would think he was not focused. They would think his head was somewhere else. And I think there would be big problems there. I know part of it is the business. This is the game. A lot of it is, you know, sometimes unfair. You know, players don't have the advantage and upper hands. Teams do. And I think that's why there's a big discrepancy with the NBA and with Europe. I think if he wanted to meet and, you know, do those things, I think there's a way to do it more quietly, you know, for the sake of the team, for the chemistry, and for the goal intact. Because when you see a coach focusing on next year, it almost makes you feel as if, you know, they don't care about this year, or they're not as locked in or as engaged. And why should the players be as engaged? You know, and I know you have to prepare your roster. You have to get certain things ready. You have to move quickly, you know, because especially in the NBA market, you know, maybe he could have signed with somebody, you know, maybe he goes to a different team, but, you know, you just can't make a public display out of it. I think it can hurt players' egos, their confidence, and it can rub them the wrong way, so that even if a player is a free agent or wants to come back the following year, you know, that type of move could make you change your mind quickly.
I have a feeling that Jasikevičius didn't know or didn't believe that, you know, that restaurant will put this photo on Instagram. So I have a feeling that I'm not so sure if Jasikevičius is coming back to that restaurant in the nearest future. Actually, I really believe that he was mad because it was not good. It was not good, as you said, you know, to get it on public.
Yeah, and you get somebody who's just similar to me, like somebody who's 6'5", 6'6", someone who's more of a creator, pass first. He's not the same playmaker as Nick, but they're very similar. Good defensive-minded guards. Look for the teammates. I mean, it looks like a pull and a plug, like another player coming right in to do what I do. So, I mean, maybe you can argue that they were going to play together, but I couldn't see how that would work. I mean, I could see them being backups for each other, but to have two guys in there who are more slashers, who get to the basket, who create, I don't think they mesh well together. So, I mean, if that's the excuse they want to go with, I mean, they can use that, but not many people will buy it.
Yeah, interesting time for Barcelona. We will see more changes, but now let's go forward with Fenerbahce. And you both already mentioned that Calathes would be a good fit for Fener right now. So is it the biggest next free agency move you're making as a Fener GM? I mean, signing Nick Calathes next to Wilbekin? Augustus?
I think they have to look for two players in the backcourt. And with Wilbekin and the Colo, I think not only Calathes, but a guard. I know we are seeing multiple reports about Higgins. We don't know about Dante Exum's situation. I would see those two players out of these three, together with Calathes, really just contemplating each other very well in that backcourt. And with Motley, with Booker, with Shaqiri, with Polonara, all these guys, I think it would be a contending team for the playoffs. So, these big names like Higgins, like Exum and Calathes, I think these three are probably the hottest free agents right now in this moment. And I would be looking for Fenerbahce to sign them very soon, maybe in the next weeks, because it's already end of June. And these big name players they do not last long in the market usually. So I think these three names.
Which one is your favorite one? You have Exum, Higgins, and Calathes on the table, and you have to make that phone call to sign one player. Which one you're signing?
I think number one option, my option would be Higgins. I had another name here, Nick Weiler-Babb, but I think he's like close to being officially signed and re-signed again with Bayern München. So I was thinking about him, like really matching up well with the roster they have, but my number one pick would be Higgins here.
Okay, Errick, so they already made a big move signing Jonathan Motley, but the next move you're making as the Fener GM.
They need a true point guard desperately. I think Scotty's a great player, but he's best when you allow him to be a scorer. When he's playing in that combo role, more of a two, and then some minutes at the one. It just allows him to be free to use his jump shot, to be in attack mode, to open things up for his teammates. I mean, they have arguably maybe the best front court in Europe with their signings right now. And I read that they're trying to get Molentinov. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if that did, that would be ridiculous. Motley, Molentinov, Booker, Polonara. I mean, you're talking about really good players, and they're going to need the ball. And who better to get the ball than a guy like Calathes? He can get the ball to everybody. He can keep everybody pleased and happy. I just feel like, without a true playmaker, it could be difficult. Losing Perrier Henry, is really going to hurt them. That's a guy who doesn't care about scoring, can score if needed and called upon, but he's a guy who's content to play defense, to run the offense, to be creative, to get the team out in transition. And without that true playmaker, I just feel like if you force Wilbekin to be that, you take away what makes him special, right? That shooting, that flair, that creativity. And you put him, in a restriction. I don't think Atudos is going to do that. I think he's going to let him be free. I mean, you don't sign a guy for 3 years and pay $1 million buyout or whatever it was to get him if you're not going to allow him to be him. So Calathes is number one just on fit. I'm not saying he's better than Higgins or he's better than Exum. I'm just saying just on what they need. Even if it's not Nick Calathes, they need to go find a true point guard and someone to kind of organize everything together and to be the coach on the court.
Yeah, and regarding to Milutinov's case, it seems like that he's staying in CSKA Moscow. Fenerbahce was the team that was after him for sure. But, he's locked in Moscow basically because there's Olympiacos Piraeus that they were making some moves trying to sign him, and he would like to go back over there, although they signed Mustafa Fall on a long-term contract. But he really has some great memories about Olympiacos. But at the end, because of his contract status with CSKA, it's probably impossible, and it's almost 100% sure that he will stay. So at the same time, of course, it would have been a huge boost for Fenerbahce, but I'm kind of happy that Itoudis is coming back to his roots, because if you remember how he won the EuroLeague with CSKA in 2016 and 2019, I mean, his centers were Kyle Hines and Otello Hunter. Players like, who was on that team as well? It was Vorontsevich, Krapa. He played small ball with versatile, mobile, tall guys and heavily guard-oriented offense. On his backcourt, he had Higgins, DeColo, and Teodosic. And later, DeColo, Chacho, and Higgins. Yeah, they replaced Teodosic. And in 2016, 2019, they won the EuroLeague. And that's what we can actually see right now, the way Fenerbahce is rebuilding their roster. They might end up having Motley and Jakiri at center position. Then there's Booker, Aquila Polonara, although there are some rumors that some of these guys might move, might switch teams, for example, Aquila Polonara. But to me personally, it's already a good front line, which has enough guys to stretch the floor, which has enough potential with Motley, for example. Jakiri is a great defensive, humble guy. So I think it fits into this approach on trying to build the winning team through the backcourt. And that's, of course, that's where the most important signing is coming on, because I've heard that probably it's also related to the fact that Milutinov is staying in CSKA, but now they're putting huge focus on that perimeter guy. And I saw that there was a report that Nando De Colo probably staying. It was reported by Israeli journalist Arale Weisberg. So let's say he's staying and they're looking for a main point guard. Calathes seems to be like an easy choice. If you have money, roster-wise, fit-wise, Calathes is a kind of obvious choice. But from what I heard, they're also looking for some creative options. They're exploring not only the free agents, but some players who are under contracts as well, and maybe they're not top tier players or not these names from the elite shelves, maybe some up and coming guys. So there might be some interesting moves from Fenerbahce side this summer, and yes, Itoudis is very, very precautious about this next signing. So we'll see what they sign at the end.
Donatas, what is Nate Walter's situation?
That's one of the most interesting remaining point guards on the market. He was on an expiring deal with Red Star, and from what I hear, he's probably leaving Red Star for sure, and he will be available. So I see good teams or even bottom teams going after him, because, as I said, not many point guards left, and Nate he has all these qualities. He is solid in offense. He can play defense. He's calm. He knows how to control the team, and he did a good job in Red Star in my eyes. And he was an ideal fit for that team that was built by Coach Radonjic with his, own approach of building team.
He had a great season. Defensively, running the team. Whenever he had to beat his man one-on-one, he did that. So for me, his season was fine, and I could see better shelf team signing him this summer. I mean, I would like to have a taller option next to De Colo and Wilbekin in Fenerbahce, so that's why I didn't mention him. But I see him as one of the most coveted remaining free agent playmakers this summer. Yeah,
and going forward, Maccabi, maybe Fenerbahce, they're just kind of getting their pace on rebuilding the team. Watching what Maccabi did, actually, it seems like they're close to finish their roster for the next year, and including some official moves they made and some unofficial but finalizing deals. We have Lorenzo Brown and Keenan Evans at point guard position, Darwin Hilliard and Austin Hollins, Bonzi Colson, Guy Pnini, Alex Poitras, Josh Niwu is coming, and it seems like they're looking for a starting stretch four. There might be some other Israeli players like Sorkin, Ziv, or some other local guys, but the core is kind of clear, and they're just one stretch four away from basically finishing the roster. What do you think about this lineup, and do you like this roster more than the previous years?
Yeah, I do. I think the roster has more depth. I think they have more options on offense. I think a lot of times the offense will bog down. Because Scotty was really the only one who could kind of create something from the perimeter. So now you add somebody like Lorenzo Brown, who not only can score himself, but he can get you 6 to 7 assists a game. You've seen how he did in Unix. He made sure Cannon was involved, Herzonia was involved. He had that team flowing. He was kind of the engine. And I think he can have a similar effect with Maccabi. And then now you put Keenan Evans in a comfortable world where he's a backup point guard instead of coming off being a starter, trying to contribute, do what he had to do in his first year in the EuroLeague. It's a lot to ask. Now he has that year of experience. He's coming back. He's going to feel more comfortable, more confident. He has talent. He just needed that year under his belt to kind of get familiar with the EuroLeague. And then Hill is just a guy who's experienced, who's been there. He can be their scorer from the wing. He doesn't need a lot of dribbles. He can get right to it. He's really good in pin down actions. He has good size. And then I like Austin Hollins. He's a perfect glue guy. someone who's defensive oriented. He shows you he can play in the system. He did it in Zenit. He did it in Red Star. And he'll play that role effortlessly. And he's extremely long and can be kind of your defensive ace. Colson, he's the guy that you take a risk flyer on. You see the talent, you see the size, you've seen what he's done throughout the time in Karšiaka, also in Strasbourg when he was the Champions League MVP. And so you take a risk with the guy who maybe doesn't have EuroLeague experience, but you back him with experienced guys. And if he gives you something, great. If he doesn't, it's like
you can afford it. Yeah,
low risk, high reward. And it's not going to be a commanding salary like the other ones, but I think he can be a guy that can really help him, and he'll have some games. He's going to have some ups and downs, a learning curve, because the EuroLeague is different, but he has the potential. You bring back your captain and guy. Alex Poitras is a great signing. Big fella, rebounds, great in the pick and roll. You'll see him and Lorenzo Brown connected on lots of alley-oops. Nebo is an athletic freak. Like the way he jumps, his strength, he can switch as well, just like Poitras. I mean, they have so many ways. This is a perfect team. You could tell David Blatt had his hands on this because they can switch 1 through 5. They have a bigger guards. They can bump, they can grind, they can push out, get out in transition. They can play in the half court. They have a pick and roll player. I mean, I really like this team. I'm not sure if Jalen Reynolds is coming back or not. I know he had another year on his contract. And you add that third big. I mean, this is a really attractive team. If you could find maybe one more scorer off the bench, I think that would be good for them. Just like a pure scorer, somebody to come in, or maybe a pure shooter. Could be somebody like, he's not available, but like a Billy Barron type, someone to come in to give you that space. And maybe they only play
Cannon, for example, right?
Yeah, like that could be a good fit. Like a guy who can really shoot it. I think that's all they're missing. I mean, Hilliard can shoot it, but outside of that, I don't think they have a sniper. And if they get that, I think they'll pretty much have all the pieces.
Errick had some great points, and I love how they have constructed their roster. I think they need just to find the continuity, because in the last years, they haven't quite found that. And I really like the addition of David Blatt to the roster as a consultant to the team. I think he will give that continuity to Maccabi that they lacked in the past years. And just adding to that point, I think they need one more guy in the power forward position. And I think, like we are seeing with the additions they are making, with Lorenzo Brown running the show at the playmaker, with Hilliard running off screens, he can play pick and roll too. With the big guys they signed with Nebo and Poitras, it will be a pick and roll heavy offense. So I think you need a stretch four, and I think Adrian Morimon makes perfect sense here. If he is available, I know Monaco is probably wants him. Another guy that could, be a backup power forward who had a nice stretch in Milano, I think this year, is Ben Bentil. He would be a nice option. Let's say maybe not that expensive. I don't know about his contract, but I don't think he's that expensive. And he would bring this, he can switch easily with the small guys. He can shoot. He had some nice periods in Milano. So I think these two guys would be nice additions to their team.
Yeah, I have power forward free agents list on my screen. We cannot forget Deshaun Thomas, for example. He could be also a nice fit if you need some 3-pointers. Nigel Hayes-Davis, he can shoot the ball. He's tall, he's big, he can play multiple positions. Anthony Gill is one of the names I'm hearing being discussed around the EuroLeague teams. It's possible that he might be returning from the NBA to Europe. I think that he's a very interesting player for any team which is looking for a stretch four. Other than that, it's tough.
Trey Tompkins. Yeah. I like that pick.
Yeah, so there are some interesting options.
Shooting, yeah.
I like the point you, Errick, made about Keenan Evans and his situation. I mean, how tough it was to be that. I mean, Maccabi, for the entire tenure of Wilbekin in Tel Aviv, they were looking for some, perfect piece next to Scottie Wilbekin. They tried a lot of different players. It was Nate Walters, Michael Roll, now it was Keenan Evans, Chris Jones. And Chris Jones' example showed how hard it is for the EuroLeague rookie, to try to fulfill these expectations. How hard it was for Chris Jones in his first year. And when he went to ASVEL, we saw Chris Jones being one of the most wanted point guards in this free agency. And who knows? Maybe Keenan Evans also might be able to make that huge step the next year with that, bagage of 1 year EuroLeague experience and in a bit more comfortable situation. So not only with these additions, but with these players who are staying in Maccabi, they might improve the next year as well. Pretty much it about Maccabi.
Yeah, I would have liked to see them give more multi-year deals to those guys just to get that continuity like Augusto was talking about. It's tough when you switch teams and it's a whole new roster turnover, trying to adjust, get chemistry. By the time guys finally figure it out, hopefully they can bring that core together. But if you don't have guys on those 2-year deals, if they outperform the contract, now you have budget issues, or you have, a guy that you wanted to keep going somewhere else. So, I hope they structure those contracts correctly on the 1+1 and gave some 2-year deals, just because you got to have some type of continuity. You don't see championship teams changing entire rosters. Like, it just doesn't happen. They always keep the core together.
And it seems that Maccabi has done it, every other summer in the recent years, just changing 5, 7, 8 players on their roster, and just, every new season there is a new team. You have to adjust each other to everyone, to the new coach, to the system, to the city, just everything. And it starts to become a mess. Then you have to change the coach in the middle of the season, and then your season just starts to going, downhill.
Hence the EuroLeague playoff drought. How many years has it been? 3, 4?
I think even more,
maybe more. I think for sure, maybe not 4 years they haven't been in the playoffs. So, this would be big for them if they could finally get there.
They kept constantly changing the coach. Probably only Spanoulis, he managed to stay in the team for more than 2 years. So I just hope that Calathes also will get enough support from Maccabi front office, because they signed majority of the players they were on a 2-year deals, which is a great point. At the same time, I was a bit surprised because they went from chasing Xavi Pascal and ended up signing Calathes, who is not, let's say, recognized as a top-tier EuroLeague head coach. So I just hope that he won't be that easy firing solution for Maccabi, because it's always so easy to cut domestic coaches, as we saw in teams like Panathinaikos in recent years, even in Žalgiris Kaunas, because it's much easier to move these smaller contracts compared to these elite head coaches. And what's interesting,
if he makes the playoffs, I think they'll keep him. If he doesn't, they'll be calling Javi Pascal's phone this summer.
Yeah, I just hope that he will be a free agent next summer. There will be a buyout in his contract, because this year it was crazy, because Maccabi was asking for Zenit was asking for like 3 million euros, but next year, from what I heard, his buyout clause, at least it will exist, because now there was no buyout clause in his deal. So maybe he will be available. Šaras is on an expiring contract, Pablo Laso on an expiring contract, Andrea Trinchieri on an expiring contract. So who knows? But yeah, let's hope that Calathes will do great, because maybe he deserves a chance. He's the Israeli legend, and the good thing, I don't know if that was Blat's or Calathes' idea. They tried to bring a team with good personalities, with fighters who are willing to sacrifice everything for the team. Because if you look at on their roster on the paper, even after Wilbekin left, you don't see that superstar player. Okay, Lorenzo Brown had a great season, but I think that he's still at least 1 year away of establishing himself as the EuroLeague superstar, as for example Scottie Wilbekin was. So this is more, let's say, tight roster with a lot of different pieces, with these players who are really humble. They have their own story. Austin Holland's one of the most beloved Red Star foreign players in many years. Darren Hilliard, I mean, the team, if you remember when he got injured against in Barcelona series, I mean, the whole team dedicated the next win for Darren, and from what I heard, he kind of burst in tears when Bayern lost the German league finals. Poitras, Nebo, good guys ready to sacrifice for the team. So I believe that this roster, maybe compared to the last years, it has more potential to become a real team on and off the floor. Maybe that was what they're missing in the last couple of years.
I agree with you. I think they're a playoff team as well. Yeah,
and by the way, one question to close Scottie Wilbekin and his chapter in Maccabi. What do you think? What he was missing of to becoming that elite scorer? Like we say, I read a good comment on Twitter that he still needs to prove that he can be compared with Shane Larkin, Mike James. I mean, he's very close to that level, but there's still something he's missing. What do you think, guys? What he was missing in Maccabi, and why Maccabi couldn't end up, forming a right squad around him to reach something more than just a playoff appearance last year, which was also heavily related to the fact that Russian teams were excluded from the tournament. Some other teams lost the points because of that, and there was a lot of luck involved in that playoff appearance.
I mean, he was a bit, in my opinion, he was a bit, let's say, missed out in the situation that Maccabi wasn't that good as a team, and usually if you don't win as a player, if you don't win as the number one option, not everyone sees you as one of these main guys in the tournament. But if I had to say, so I think that was a part of his situation, how people perceive him in Europe. I think he is a great player, but if I had to say one thing, I think consistency, with his offense, I think that was one thing that could have helped him. He had some lower points, lower periods during each season, and I think that's when Maccabi went on these losing streaks. But like I said before, it was not only on him. So I don't really know what else we can discuss in this. Maybe Errick has some different thoughts about his situation in Maccabi.
Yeah, for me, I think that Scottie's a great talent, right? I think he's the best shooter off the bounce in the EuroLeague. I mean, he has unlimited range. He can create space to get his shot. He's quick, he's fast, he's athletic. He gets to the hole, and he's a solid finisher inside. I think with him, he has not learned how to make the game easier for other people yet. So if you want to compare him to Shane and to Mike James, the difference is Mike and Shane could consistently get their teammates open shots, easy shots, layups, and that's why you see some of the higher assist totals, and you see them being able to dominate a game with the passing. I think Scottie can kill you with his scoring, but he has not yet figured out how to dominate the game with his passing, whether that be through the pick and roll, through those creations, just getting guys going. When you're such a talented scorer like that, sometimes you can kind of relax offensively when it comes to looking for your shot, and you still attack, you still probe, but you look to get the other guys involved and get them some easy shots to get their confidence going, because he's such a special scorer that at any moment he can turn it on. So I think he hasn't figured that out. And then I think the second thing is just balance. He's such a great 3-point shooter that sometimes he falls in love with it instead of using that speed, that quickness, that explosiveness, and getting to the basket. Don't allow there to be a bailout for the defense. Get to the line, draw the bonus. Anytime a point guard or any guard gets 2 feet in the paint, usually good things happen. There has to be help. You have the big on the drop off or the alley-oop. You have kick out threes. And I think just because he's such a good shooter that sometimes he relies on that 3 too much. So if he learns to create more for his teammates and to not rely solely on that 3-point shot so much, I think you'll start to see more winning, more playoff performances. And then granted, now he's going to a team where he's going to have more talent around him, in Fener, but there's still going to be a lot of pressure. He's still going to be that number one guy. But I think having a DeColo to alleviate the pressure, someone who can create just as good as you or better, I don't think he's had that at his time at Maccabi. So now I think you'll see a different, version. He might even get some spot up shots from when DeColo creates offense.
I don't like the fact that's...
Yeah. My bad, Donatas. I wanted to add, to what Errick said. If he has a bad night shooting, and it can happen, even to the biggest talents, it happens when just the ball doesn't go in, or he falls in love with the 3-point shot, it's not going in. If he finds out how to be aggressive with the passing, how to win games, I think that, as you said, it would help him on the bad nights, on the bad periods, and he just brings the team to another level and his game. So it will be, I think, a huge objective for him this next year. And
he's still young.
He's 29,
he's
right?
29. Yeah, he's coming at his peak to Fener.
So this is a good age to put it all together.
Yeah, and I think that he needs to step up defensively, but because I thought that sometimes he was just resting himself on the defensive end, and he was just lacking some of the discipline on the offensive end, at least not to be such a big mismatch in against some opponents, because a lot of opponents will try to use his weaknesses defensively. But at the same time, I think that he's coming to the situation with a very right coach. Itoudis is a very demanding, intense coach, and the coaching factor is very important, because I think that Wilbekin was missing a consistency from the head coaching stand. He played for many different head coaches with different ideas of the way how Maccabi tried to play. So now he will have the elite head coach who's very demanding, who's very intense. He knows how to play these guards. You can remember Corey Higgins. I think that Errick brought that up in one of the recent podcasts, that who was Higgins, coming to CSKA Moscow. I mean, he was coming off Gaziantep team in Turkish league, and maybe people were questioning that move, but he became very, very important championship piece for CSKA Moscow. Then we saw De Colo playing his best years in CSKA. There were some other guys, Mike James, when he was playing in his first year, especially COVID year with CSKA Moscow, he was impressive. So Itoudis knows how to play these guys. He will help him to develop. And as you guys mentioned, he's coming there at his peak. And in a winning environment, he might step up and finally reach that level. Let's hope for that. Vasilis Spanoulis, legendary guard, EuroLeague icon, Olympiacos icon, starting the head coaching career, and he jumps straight into head coaching after his playing years. Of course, he had 1 year off, but now he's here, signed a 2-year contract with Peristeri Athens, BCL team. Are we okay with the fact that there was no break, there was no transition period? He didn't join any coaching staff. He didn't try to be an assistant coach before moving to the head coach position. Are there any reasons to be concerned if he will be successful as the head coach?
Well, I like the move. I think that, if anyone can skip steps in the coaching process, it's a legend like Spanoulis. And you got to think, this is not just a guy who's good at basketball. This is a guy who eats, sleep, and breathe the game. He watches basketball nonstop from his playing days to now, watches the EuroLeague games, watches all the Greek league games. He knows basketball. He knows the X's and O's. He's had some of the best coaches. So you got to think, maybe he wasn't the coach at the time, but as a player, you're seeing how the coach prepares. You're seeing how he runs the practice, how he demands certain things from certain players. So I think coming in from that player's perspective, he's going to know how to reach, how to motivate, how to talk to guys. I think his struggles will come from lack of control. Because as a player, right, Spanoulis can go out there, he can hit the shot, he can make the pass, he can do certain things. When you're a player of that high level, of that quality, and now you're on a team, a solid team that's up and coming like Peristeri, you have guys who maybe can't necessarily make those plays that you could make. And you're going to expect them to do that. You're going to expect that type of scoring or that type of decision making. And that's going to be an adjustment for him, seeing guys who maybe aren't quite at that EuroLeague level yet, or who aren't ready to, take on a full responsibility, but he's going to have to learn to be patient, to groom with them, and to grow with them. I think that's a tough part of the coaching, not just winning right now, but trying to develop guys and finding that balance. So, and I know he's extremely competitive. I think he'll do well. I think it's good for basketball because, you have a guy who not only can teach the game, but he can also go out there and show you some things demonstrated as well. But, he will have his ups and downs. We see it with all coaches, even some of the best ones. He will be criticized because he's a coach in Greece, and the Greek media is tough. If you do well, they'll let you know. If you struggle, they'll let you know as well. But I'm glad that he's starting on a team that's, in that mid-level tier area where he can kind of groom himself and come up. And, that when he gets that experience and, he becomes, the household name coaching wise, the Reds are going to come calling for him.
I don't have any problem with that too. I've heard also that he is just a freak of basketball. He breathes it every day. He watches the game. The only things that he speaks in the locker room and he wants to speak is basketball with his teammates, not anything else. If you want to joke with him, it's going to be it has to be about basketball. So I think he knows basketball inside out. he won't have problems with the tactics. I think the harder part would be the psychology, just how to approach each player, how to talk with them, how to motivate them after, in tough periods. I think this part is going to be a bigger learning process for him, but I think he will do well. It's a average level team. It's a great. I think it's better to be a head coach than to be an assistant for him, and I think he'll do well.
Yeah, I tried to make a research, and there are a couple of main reasons why he went into straight into head coaching. First of all, he's Vasilis Spanoulis, and that's a big ego. And for big egos, you cannot be listening to anybody. He wants to lead. He's alpha man. He's alpha guy. So he wanted to lead the team from the beginning. But at the same time, I think that we kind of felt that the logical transition was, through Olympiacos team, for example, joining the team as Olympiacos legend, starting from the assistant coach, coaching staff, helping Yorgos Barsokas, who's the coach of the year in the EuroLeague, and, trying to find some helpful things during this transition time. But at the same time, I heard that his relationship with Coach Barsokas was not the best. So probably that was not the best fit on Barsokas' bench, to try to mix these two personalities. So kudos for Olympiacos that they didn't put Barsokas in a bad situation, because even from the Olympiacos front office, it was kind of a logical move to try to convince Spanoulis to join the assistant coaching staff of Barsokas. The other fact, what was worth the consideration, is that he wanted to work at home. And, if you're from Athens, if you're Olympiacos legend, you cannot go to Panathinaikos. So not many teams are left. And there's Peristeri team, which is next to his go home. We cannot forget the fact that guy has 6 kids. Every time I'm shocked about this fact. I'm every time shocked when I see his Instagram profile with 6 kids. It's just amazing, because I cannot handle my one kid so far. So I just cannot understand how it's possible to handle 6 mouths to feed. So anyway, that's a different topic. So he wanted to stay at home, to be somewhere close to his family. And as Errick said, it's a team with no high expectations, no ultimate expectations to win it all. So he will have space to learn and to grow. But the most important thing that I hope that Peristeri board and front office, they're smart enough to give him a lot of time and a lot of to let him go through a lot of mistakes, because that's what will happen. Actually, he will go through a lot of ups and downs. And I remember that it's very hard task to go straight from head coaching, from playing to head coaching. And also, if you were a star player, I tried to go through the list of star players going into head coaching in Europe, and actually ended up finding only Šarūnas Jasikevičius and Sasha Djordjevic. They were European Player of the Year since 90s. I mean, there were only 2 European Players of the Year who ended up coaching. And if you remember, Sasha Djordjevic's experience in his rookie year with Olimpija Milan in 2006 and 7 season was pretty bad. And after that experience, he ended up not coaching for 4 years, and it took a lot of time for him to get that recognition. But I think that he was missing patience from the front office and support from the front office. That what Šarūnas Jasikevičius had in Žalgiris. Okay, he was an assistant coach for almost 2 seasons, but at the same time, he started his head coaching career. I think that his record in the EuroLeague was something close to 2 wins and 12 losses. In his first season, I think that he lost the Lithuanian Cup, and then his first full season ended up as a losing season. They didn't make the playoffs, and I think that they finished in the 10th position. Some signings of Jasikevičius were questionable. Kevin Pangos, in his first year in Žalgiris, he was very average, maybe below average. There were a lot of things you might have questioned, but he always had that support. And Žalgiris let him go through mistakes. The whole team grew together, the whole organization grew together, and the rest is history. So I hope that Spanoulis will get the same support from his environment here in Peristeri.
No, that's a great point. Patience, growth, full control. and learning from mistakes. That's huge for coaches. I think if they do that, he'll have that success and that growth that Sowers had, and he'll be on his way.
I mean, if Peristeri will see the improvement, why would they, fire him after one bad season? That's what Jasikevich's first season was all about. At the end, we saw the improvement from these signings, let's say questionable signings that you mentioned. These players started to perform at a really high level, at the EuroLeague level, at the end, towards the end of the season. So people saw that and they just believed in the process, like you said in the previous podcast. That's when Lithuanian people started believing in that.
But it's easy to talk. But in countries like Greece or Israel, for example, it's a tough task to remain patient when you have this pressure, not only from your fans who are trying to enter the locker room and to educate players and coaches, but also from your board, because there are maybe too many board members who want to go different directions. It's not as easy as it looks. And, it takes only one bad stretch and things might get ugly, because we see the real faces when the team is really struggling and when they're going through bad periods, not when they're winning or not in the preseason, because there's no losing team in the preseason. There's no bad coach or bad player in the preseason. So you never know. In countries like Greece, you never know.
But that's still Vasilis Spanoulis, so, his name in Greece is legendary.
It carries a lot of weight.
Yep.
Yeah. And for the end, we have to discuss French League finals. Amazing drama as well. We're down by 1-2, and they managed to win the series in an overtime drama. And I watched the game from the fourth quarter. Augustus watched the entire game. Augustus, what would be your main takes about that game? What did you like or dislike the most?
First, I was about to ask you a question, guys. Like, what's your thoughts on fouling when you're up 3? The opponents have the ball, and do you want to defend and risk taking the 3-pointer to tie the game and go to overtime, or do we try to foul, because that's what Monaco did, and they went to overtime?
I would foul. Maybe Errick has a different approach, because usually NBA teams, they end up playing until the last second. But in Europe, it's probably one of the most common answers, that teams are trying to foul players not to give up a potential 3-pointer.
Yeah, for me, it depends on the time. So if there's less than the shot clock amount of time, so 23 seconds or less, I believe
it was
fouling.
15 seconds. 15 seconds left, I think, around something like that.
Yeah, so I believe in fouling just because it's easier for us to hit a 3-point shot in that crucial moment than it is for you to get fouled, for you to step to the line, hit 2 free throws, get a steal, score again. Like, I just feel like there's too many things that have to go right for a team, rather than a 3-pointer is just one thing, and then it's not even guaranteed that the guy might make the free throws. I even sometimes, like Barjokas does it, even when you're up 2, sometimes I think you should foul as well, especially if a guy is like a shaky free throw shooter, or it's a guard who's just the average shooter. You foul, you put the pressure on them, and you give yourself the last shot. So it just depends on the team, how strong we are defensively, how good we are offensively. But I think always foul up 3.
And
okay, I was just curious
I think that you cannot risk a 3-pointer when your opponent has Elio Kobo and Chris Jones. It's just too much of risk. They're a hell of a shooter, so they can make a triple from the logo. So I think that Monaco did a great move, and I think that they went into the overtime not because of that decision. They just themselves, they missed some free throws.
They almost lost in the fourth quarter. They almost lost because of that decision, but it was just a mix of lucky things. Gist made 2 free throws. Diallo missed 1 of 2, and then Okobo went coast to coast against Mike. He made it and 1 with like 2 seconds remaining, and then missed the free throw. So it was a crazy ending in the fourth, but
that's why Monaco signed him before the finals. That's why they signed him.
He's professional though, to have a good contract, making good money, knowing you're going to another team, and to go out there and they kind of stick the knife in him and kill him. I mean, hey, that's high level professionalism.
And he was amazing in Game 5.
Yeah. During the final series, he was really delivering for ASVEL, so no complaints. Just a joke about Okobo, because it really felt that it was mental thing for him, because even during the overtime he was just missing badly, although before he scored like 20 points. He was just killing Monaco, and starting from these free throws he just lost the game mentally. So I'm just happy that there were some other guys stepping up, especially my X factor was William Howard, who made some clutch 3-pointers. He made this Tyshawn Prince or LeBron James final series against the Cleveland Warriors type of block when he stopped Paris Lee. He made that crucial defensive stop when Dwayne Bacon was about to make the final shot of Monaco. I think that he was a real X factor and helped ASVEL to win the title.
And that was a great after timeout idea by TJ Parker, with minus one with 1 minute left in the overtime. He was... I posted this on Twitter, and he drew this play with Okobo. He said, "Okay, Ellie, take the ball, go ISO against Mike, and then on the right side there is a stagger with the flare screen for the second screener." And it worked perfectly. Like Monaco was expecting, everyone was looking at Okobo attacking Mike off the dribble, so he was quite wide open, he just pulled up with confidence, and that was a huge shot. Obviously, the block after was a legendary one. We are not exaggerating comparing it to LeBron. I mean, the level is different. This is French league, and this is the NBA. This was the NBA Game 7, but the block was amazing. One other thing I wanted to mention was ASVEL's plan against James. He was 5 of 23 from the field. I read today on Twitter he was saying that he had some problems with his hand or with the shoulder, with the shooting hand. So I think this played a big part. But I just like the ASVEL's idea, just putting him in as much pick and rolls as you can to get him tired. Chris Jones attacking him sometimes in the post, just making him work. And he did a really good job on defense, but though all these energies might have played a part in him shooting that bad the ball, 5 of 23. And I think Monaco really missed Dante Hall too, and Danilo and Dusic, because Dante Hall gives Mike James, this where you can just drop off passes when you're driving, when all the defense collapses on you, you can just lob the ball near the rim and he's going to get you. And now Fall was just helping in the paint every time Mike drove the ball, and on pick and rolls he was high enough to not allow him easy 3-pointers, but he was not high enough to allow him easy drives. So he was like kind of provoking, going back and forth, and Mike was forced to try these tough shots over him. So I really like ASVEL's plan. I think they executed it really well throughout the series, and I think it was one of the keys for them winning the series.
Yeah, defensive adjustments are great. The plan was great, but I just think that it also comes to the fact that this game was played on June 26th. I mean, Mike James, okay, he joined Monaco in September, but these teams started their preseason early in August. Okay, in the middle of the August because of new ELPA rules. But I mean, it's just crazy to stay consistent and especially to stay motivated after such a historical season for Monaco in the EuroLeague, going to the Game 5 of a quarterfinal series against Olympiacos. A lot of hype, a lot of good emotions, and now you have to play so long in the French league. I mean, it's just crazy. So I get it. I get all the tweets that okay, Mike James, maybe he choked, his shot selection or his shooting percentage was terrible. But at the same time, I cannot ask much from the guy who's playing till June 26th. It's just crazy and it's just irrational, and you cannot expect the highest level from these star players when you have that kind of schedule.
Oh yeah, no one is blaming Mike for losing this finals, but yeah, I think it's crazy to play on 25th of June, the last game of the season. I think it's too long, and something has to be done because it's pretty ridiculous from my point of view.
Yep. That's all for this time. I think we're not missing anything, right? We covered what we have planned. It was a pleasure to have you guys again. Errick McCollum, now you will be able to follow him on Karşıyaka Izmir in BCL tournaments. Maybe with matching with Vasilis Spanoulis. Actually, I think that's a huge loss for the EuroLeague. I mean, because Spanoulis is the EuroLeague legend, EuroLeague icon. and he was always on posters of the EuroLeague, and now he's going to BCL. So you can imagine that even for the Euro Cup, having these stories about Spanoulis starting his head coaching career, that's a good promotion for the Euro Cup tournament, next to possible Wembanyama's move to Paris basketball and stuff like that. So maybe I'm just overthinking, but I think that's also a huge loss for the EuroLeague basketball. Anyway, Errick McCollum, follow him in Karšiaka next year. Of course, as he said, he will continue appearing on our podcast. And no, you're not tiring me. It's a big pleasure to have you here on the show. Augustas Šuliauskas, follow him on Twitter. August04, a lot of good analysis, video breakdowns, both there and on our website. And just in general, follow us on BasketNews.com, both on the YouTube channel and our website. See you next time. Thank you, guys.